Hi, welcome to another episode of Lightbulbs with Natasha. I'm Natasha, as you all know, and today I am here with Ricardo Sebastian from RXS Consulting. Ricardo, thank you so much for being here.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Of course, and thank you for wearing that awesome jacket. We were talking about how I really want it.
Thank you. I got it on sale at Target, and I love that we're color coordinated.
We are. I kept this on for a reason. Actually, I was supposed to change, and then I'm like, no, we're going to be matching.
I love it.
So, all right, we have a lot to get into. First of all, I would love for you to elaborate exactly what it is RXS Consulting is.
That's a great question. I would say that RXS, also known as Ricardo X Sebastian, is really the final phase of my consulting entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. I started as an event producer, a fundraiser. I eventually evolved into talent management, business operations, marketing, sales. I've worn many, many hats throughout my career, and I decided to house everything through RXS, which is my main focus as an independent business owner.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot that you do. There's a lot of skills that you have, and I'm really jealous of it. And I am. I think you've really taken the time to kind of master each skill through your journey.
Thank you for that.
And so I would love to know, where did this journey all start? Where are you from?
I'm from Chicago originally, born and raised. And my origin story is actually kind of hilarious. I think as a Mexican person, or even just like Hispanic people in general, would relate to the fact that you never really have the house to yourself. There's always family staying with you. There's always friends crashing on the couch. Like, you know, as a culture, as a community, we tend to keep our doors open. And that was definitely my experience. Yeah. So when I was in college, one random year, my sister won tickets to go on a vacation. And so she took my parents, her daughter, herself, and it just so happened that my grandparents were in Mexico at that time. Mm-hmm. And of course, as soon as they told me, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have the house to myself for the first time in my whole life. But I didn't really think anything of it. And then the Friday morning that they left to the airport, my mother tells me, by the way, we've sold the living room furniture and the dining room furniture, and the movers are coming to pick it up, and we need you to be home on Sunday to receive the new furniture. And I said, oh my God, I'm going to have the house to myself, and it's going to be empty for Friday and Saturday. And so I called my best friend, and I said, we have to have a house party. There's no way. And so we put together a house party so quickly, and the logistics around it were insane because you know, I was at that time, we were living in Berwyn, which is just outside of the city of Chicago. It's accessible through the Blue Line. And so we had I convinced one of my friends, I need you to basically chauffeur back and forth from the train station to get people to the house. Gosh. I need you to do the playlist. So he's burning CDs. I need you to go to the grocery store. And it just all came together so quickly. And that was really my first event that I ever produced. Simultaneously, I was in college and I was a member of my school's international business club. And that club really had an emphasis on entrepreneurship. So as a student project, I wanted to develop my own business as a concept, which I had decided on event production because I had so much fun organizing that event. And I totally got away with it. My parents allegedly never found out. I don't even know if they know till this day, but that was my origin story and how I got into event production. And thanks to the International Business Club at my college, I was able to learn about how to start a business.
That's amazing. I mean, my school did not offer that. I would have been so happy if my school had offered something like that.
I definitely feel lucky. I think in an age where so many of my peers talk about college debt, not being able to find jobs to apply their degrees to, I definitely feel blessed. I mean, you can look at it in any different way. I've always identified as a creative person. In high school, I was really into photography. I've always been into writing, but I was terrified of the starving artist journey. And that's what ended up convincing me to go to business school, because I wanted to learn how to make money being creative. But here I am 17 years later. And while I'm so proud of my career and everything that I've accomplished, this is also like the first season of my life where I'm really invested in my creativity. And so, you know, I could flip it on myself and say, look, you wasted all this time in business when you could have been an artist. But I don't regret the decisions I've made and the path that I've chosen. I think it's all brought me to this moment.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's your mindset on it. And it's only the way that you frame it, honestly.
Absolutely.
So you get a little taste of event production and your school, you know, really helps and gear you in that direction. What happens after that? And do you stay in Chicago?
I stayed in Chicago until I was about 21. I attempted to move to LA, but I moved here with no plan, no job, no savings. I lasted about 25 days, maxed out a credit card.
Wow.
Yeah. I did successfully produce one event while I was here in Venice Beach for Fashions Night Out. And the crazy thing about that experience is I remember feeling like a failure because I'd moved out here with big dreams and I was already experiencing so much success in Chicago prior to moving. And a lot of my friends who are no longer my friends because they were discouraging me from pursuing my dreams. They said, you're going to fail. You don't have anything set up for yourself. And sure, maybe it was like a warning. But I'm a big believer in rallying behind the people that you love. So I was defiant. I did it. I produced one successful event, but it did not generate anything for me. And so I came back to Chicago, and to my surprise, that one successful event in Venice Beach for Fashions Night Out changed people's perspective of me in Chicago. Because of my peer group, I was the first to leave the city and do something somewhere else. And so it actually opened up all these doors of opportunity for me when I came back to Chicago.
Oh, wow.
And so I was in Chicago. I ended up becoming a member of the Habitat for Humanity Young Professionals Board for the Chicago chapter. And I got really into affordable housing as a human right. I started getting more into my social justice work. I was developing my company, Luxury Management, as an event production company. I was producing fashion shows. I mean, it was all kind of just coming together organically. And it was a struggle the whole way through. I mean, I grew up poor and learned how to be creative and pulling it all together. But in terms of opportunity, I was starting to experience more. And then I attempted to move to LA again later in my 20s, which was a really, really bizarre experience. I was actually going through a really bad season of depression living in Chicago, and I felt like the success had changed me. I became really conceited and arrogant, and my motives shifted. It went from wanting to bring people together to celebrate life. It went from wanting to empower the communities that I represent. It went from wanting to bring, what I consider luxury experiences to the masses because, we can get into the wealth gaps of this country, but I believe that everyone deserves to experience a luxury lifestyle. And in my opinion, that means just feeling at peace, feeling at ease. It went from all of those values to just wanting to have my photograph taken, wanting to be on the red carpet, wanting to be picked. And I did not respect the person that I became in my late 20s. And it triggered a really dark depression for me. My best friend at the time, she was living out here for a couple of years already. And she was like, I'm so sick of hearing you complain about your life. Like I'm flying you out to LA for my birthday, and you can't say no. This is my birthday gift to myself. And I was like, all right, I'm not going to say no, obviously. So I came to LA, and it breathed life back into me.
Okay.
And she had established a really great friend group that I was hanging out with for the duration of my time. And it was the last day. I'd been here for a week, and we're all sitting at brunch at, I believe it was Hermosa Beach Pier.
Oh, okay. I love that.
Yeah. And I was just, again, complaining.
Oh, okay.
Complaining. And saying, I don't want to go back to Chicago. It was the dead of winter at the time. It was actually coming up on New Year's. And my friend like kind of slams her hands on the brunch table. And she was like, I'm honestly so sick of you. Like, I'm starting to regret flying you out here because you've just been complaining the whole time about your life and how unhappy you are. Like, just make a decision. If you don't like the life that you're living, change your life. She's like, you have people here that you've connected with. You have me, your best friend. Like, why are you not just identifying solutions? Like, you could just stay here and find a job and make a change, but you're just so stuck in this negative mindset. I mean, she really woke me up.
Yeah. Wow. That's a good friend.
Yeah. And so I ended up canceling my return flight to Chicago that day. Wow. And I slept on her gross little beanbag in the living room for about a month while I was job hunting. And I actually just walked up like the main street of Hermosa Beach and was walking into retail stores looking for a job. And I walked into this store. It was a retail home goods store named Maison Luxe. And at the time, my company was luxury management. And the biggest client that I had been working with is a fashion designer. And at the time, his label was called Maison de Lacour, which is now Julius Lacour. And so Maison Luxe, I was just like, this is a sign from God. Yeah. And I walked in, the door was open, but the store was closed. And the owner came out and she was like, oh, we're closed, whatever. And I was like, oh, sorry. Like, I was interested to see if you're hiring for seasonal. And she was like, oh, actually I am. Wow. And so I landed that job and it gave me enough income to survive the next like 45 days.
Okay.
And then I did that job. Obviously seasonal ended and I found another job as in a warehouse, which was so crazy. It was in this warehouse for this luxury goods product that's carried at like Neiman Marcus and all these luxury retailers across the country. Mind you, I'm like running away from my life. Yeah. I'm running away from everything that it had become in Chicago. I didn't want anything to do with the entertainment industry. I didn't want anything to do with being a public figure, nothing. What I wanted in that moment was like some steady income, a bike. Literally just a bike, because I've basically never owned a car in my whole adult life. And I wanted to just go to the beach and experience beach life. That's all I wanted at that time. And so this warehouse job provided that to me. But then they found out about my past in Chicago. They found out about luxury management, about all the fashion shows. And they were like, so we know that like this is the job you're signing on to, but we're actually struggling in terms of reaching younger demographics. And we're interested to know if you would want to be our national brand ambassador for this product line and help us get in front of a younger demographic. And I just thought, like, how insane that I'm literally running away from all of this.
And it's following you right now.
It's following me. It's being handed to me on a silver platter. So overall, things were going well. But it started to feel like the direction, the friend group that I was with, they were not accepting me. I was the only queer person in the friend group. I was the only Mexican in the friend group. And then with the job, my visibility was rising, which was the point. They wanted me to be the national brand ambassador. And it just felt like in order for me to stay, I would have to kind of give up on myself and fit into the mold of this friend group and be less than I could be with this brand that I was representing. And so I called it quits. Yeah. So I went back to Chicago.
Okay.
Which has become an ongoing running joke because I move around quite a bit and then I always bounce back to Chicago. Like when I need to like reconnect with myself or kind of get my life back together. And I'm grateful as a queer person to be able to go back home and do that. Even though the familial relationship with my queerness has always been challenging, at a minimum, they've always opened their doors to me. So went back to Chicago and picked up where I left off and started producing events again. And then that led me to New York Fashion Week for a little bit.
Okay.
And New York Fashion Week is where I started doing the talent management work.
Okay.
And growing in that space. So New York happened so seamlessly. I was consulting with these different artists, and then I got a job offer with Habitat for Humanity, New York City. And they wanted me to produce their gala, but they wanted me to be in New York full time.
Wow.
And so they were like, you have a week to figure it out.
They give you a week
Yeah.
to pick up and go.
To figure my life out, yes. And it all worked out so beautifully because at the time I was managing this indigenous queer artist. His name is Gage John Lazar. He's Mohawk native from Ganawage in Canada. And when I would come to town to work with him, I would stay with him in his apartment. And so I came home and I said, you're never going to believe this. I got this crazy offer, but they want me to live in New York full time in a week. And I'm like, not even prepared to move. And he says, that's so crazy. My roommate is moving out tomorrow and she's leaving all her furniture in her bedroom.
The timing.
So I was just like, all right, I guess I'm moving to New York.
That's another sign, right? It just seems to happen with you, with your journey.
So, I could go on and on and on, but I'm going to fast forward a little bit because now I live here in LA.
Yes.
And that is through my consulting and the path of my talent management work. I was consulting with this incredible queer entertainment host. His name is Ryan Mitchell. And Ryan is one of the hosts of OutLoud Music Festival. So in 2022, I was consulting with Ryan as a prospective talent manager. It didn't work out for me to be Ryan's manager. Excuse me. But towards the end of that consult, Ryan had said, you know what? I think I want to introduce you to the founder of OutLoud because you have some skills that I think Jeff is looking for. Jeff is the creator and the founder of OutLoud, also the CEO of JJLA, which is a event production and experiential agency. And so Ryan introduced me to Jeff, and within 2 meetings, I was signed as a consultant to OutLoud to project manage their partnership with Twitch. So I did that in 2022. We produced 21 episodes. Wow. We aggregated 3.2 million viewers across those episodes. And at the end of 2022, Jeff asked me if I would consider joining full-time as the first executive director for OutLoud. And so that brought me here to LA.
Yeah. This is the third
Take
time
3.
in LA. This is take 3.
Take 3. And honestly, it took me about 9 months to actually unpack my apartment because I was just like waiting for things to not work out.
No, well, that makes sense a little bit though. You're like, all right, this is the third time. Let me just not settle in quite yet. Yeah. So the bags, everything is unpacked now?
Ish.
You still have one bag by the door?
Yeah. No, there's literally a suitcase right at my bedroom door.
That is so funny. I don't doubt that actually.
It's technically vintage. It's technically decor, but I think it serves as a reminder that life is in constant flux and change.
Yeah.
And I used to resist change. So now I'm trying to I keep saying I'm in my let go and let God era. Yeah. I'm just trusting the path that I'm on, and I'm ready for whatever comes my way.
Yeah. And that's, I think that's really healthy too. And when you're younger, you think it's always I got to move now. I got to, be on the go, and everything's rushed, and you just don't even, sometimes, at least in my experience, I don't even think, I just do. Yeah. And now in my 30s, like, no, I'm going to think this over and see if this is actually something that I want to do.
Yes.
And if it's good for me. But I think experiences are always just good for you in general. And that's what you've had in your journey. You've had so much experience and you have so much knowledge and so many skills that now RXS Consulting was, officially, not officially born, but it's where you're at, right?
Yes.
And that's what you offer other companies is your experience. And I think that's really beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you're in LA now. You've been here how long?
1 year and 2 months.
1 year and 2 months. That's not a lot.
I'm a baby.
Yeah. I was asking you earlier, what has been your favorite thing about LA so far?
My favorite part of LA is that this is the place and the time of my life that I've been able to be fully myself. Although I'm very proud of all versions of myself, even the ones that were hardships and lessons to be learned. I was able to really arrive in LA with a clear sense of myself, my identity, my purpose. And I always say in New York, that's where I became the adult version of myself. And I'm very happy with the way things played out because I think here I'm working in the entertainment industry. And in entertainment, there's a lot of people telling you who they think you should be. And so I can be in the space knowing who I am. And so that is definitely my favorite part. Equal to that, I'm going through my own radicalization and revelation as a humanitarian, as an advocate for people. And I've become more politically involved with social justice and the demand for change, especially for the communities that I represent, Mexican communities, queer communities. I grew up poor, so I think representing really my families and my friends, it's hard. It's hard to exist in the reality that we're in. And I'm grateful that my time in LA has brought me to this intersection where I can leverage all of the privilege that I have, all the resource that I have to try to make a difference in a different kind of way.
That's really beautiful.
Thank you.
So you would say right now with who you are and what you know, and you're not walking into any meetings or anything with this sense of, is it okay for who I am? Like, because I know I've felt that before too. Sometimes back in the day, I used to walk in and just not even know if I could even say like who I am fully. Do you think you walk into a room now with just knowing who you are and understanding that if they don't like it, then I'm willing to walk away?
Yeah, I'm definitely, in addition to letting go and letting God, I think part of that is the acronym IDGAF. I don't want to say the F word on your podcast.
Oh, we've said word.
I don't give a fuck is where I'm at.
That's where you're at.
Yeah.
And I think we should all get there soon.
And it's reflected in a lot of different ways in how I show up in this space, the way that I dress, the way that I present myself, the condition of my mental emotional health. If I'm having an off day, I don't feel the need to pretend. I let people know I'm having an off day. If I'm in a meeting and I'm displeased, you're gonna know. So, there is a time and a place for everything, of course. But I think one of my main purposes in this life is to also change what people perceive as professional. Okay. Anyone who is doing social work or DEI work would tell you that professionalism is rooted in white supremacy. And it's also a tool to oppress people. It's to say, we see the discrimination against Black people for the way that they wear their hair, and it's deemed as unprofessional. That's not true. You can show up with a beautiful afro or braids or a press, whatever you choose. Yeah. And it is not about the way that you look. It is about the quality of your work and the integrity that you're putting into your work. So when I took this role with OutLoud, I was hesitant because I'm not meant to be an employee. That's not my journey. But let me tell you, these CEOs, they make it look real appealing when they recruit me. And in every single instance that I've said yes, it was partly because it was an opportunity to change the workplace culture and to change the way people do business together in the office. And so in this particular instance, I said, okay, these are my last two negotiating points before saying yes to being the first executive director. One, I will continue to manage my calendar. I'm not subscribing to this 10 to 6 Monday to Friday. That's not realistic. That is monotonous, and it will totally impede my ability to be creative and a leader.
Right.
I can acknowledge that after 17 years of working. The second thing was I'm going to wear whatever the hell I want to wear.
Absolutely.
And you better believe the crop tops are crop topping.
I'm jealous of those crop tops, by the way.
And as silly as it may seem to some people, last year, one of the junior staff at the company that I'm working with said to me, "You're the reason I feel comfortable wearing a crop top to the office." And it's a young woman who, you know, we can even get into that whole dialogue, the way women are treated based on the way that they dress.
Oh, yeah.
She's a hard-working, intelligent, capable young leader. It doesn't matter if she's wearing a crop top. She gets the job done, period.
Right.
So for me, that was like
that was
a
a
beautiful
big moment.
win. Yeah.
So would you say that that is really your intentions and your goals? Is one of them is creating more space for people to feel and be themselves?
Yes, absolutely. If I were to summarize my life purpose, it is to help liberate people from the confines of how society conditioned us to believe everything about who we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to be. I think another example, I'm a manager of someone for the first time in a long time. He's also young, 25 years old, at the very beginning of his career. And I always have to check myself to not project potential onto him, right? Because I think potential is projection of what one would do in someone else's situation. So I have to check myself and stay focused on where he is at in life. But my main message to him has been, it took me 17 years for a CEO to look at me and say, I want you to be the executive director. I want you to be the first. I want you to be a voice. I want you to be an influence in how we are structuring this business. As a manager, I want to ensure that whomever I'm managing, it doesn't take them 17 years to get to where I got. And even though I've held CEO and co-founder and all of these wonderful titles, those were through my own creations. In the corporate space, the highest I've been was senior director, now executive director. So when it comes to empowering young queer people, young Black people, young Mexican people, I feel like it's politically incorrect to say, but basically non-white queer people. Those are the communities I represent.
Yes.
Those are the communities I'm advocating for, to pipeline them to their dreams and their aspirations.
Wow. So what would you say is your ideal kind of client that you would, I mean, we know that you're already with clients, but you take on clients. I mean, you're a consultant. This is what you do. You don't, what is your ideal kind of client that you would take on?
I love a client who has a balance between knowing exactly what they want and being open to how to get there. Oftentimes, people will be very quick to position themselves as the expert at the table because they've been there since day one. It's their creation. They also have 17, 20 years of experience. But the most ridiculous thing is the whole narrative of like, this is how things have always been done, or this is how I've been doing things for 20 years. And the reality of the situation is that what was effective 20 years ago, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, has evolved. Now, sure, there are some tried and true practices that are timeless, but that's not across the board. So I love a client that is clear in what they want and open to how we get there.
Okay. And open to change too, because that's really the key there is, you know, and it's understandable, let's say from a someone who's created something and that's their baby, right? But if they're bringing someone on, they have to be open to listening to maybe what's not working and open to change as well.
Yes.
And I think that if you come in with a strategy, someone has to be open to listening to that, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm sure that it's happened before where you come in with the strategy and they say, no, let's modify it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is the time and the opportunity for me to learn, for me to be collaborative, for me to live out the values that I'm saying that I have as what an ideal client is. I think I've reached a point in my career where I don't care about being right. I care about being heard.
Yeah.
I care about being understood. I care about being respected in the space. And if those things don't exist, then there's really no work to be done.
Yeah. I love that. That's a great, great quote. I mean, you don't care to be right. You care to be heard.
Yes.
That's so beautiful. I love that. And I think that holds so much weight because I think we all just want to be heard.
Yes.
You know? So, and there's people who live very differently. They live in a state where they want to be right. And I think that's where the clashes come in when it comes to collaboration. And that's what you do. You collaborate with so many other creative minds. Mm-hmm. How does that feel, by the way, to be able to be in a space where you can collaborate with so many different, you know, mindsets, so many different creative like mindsets, especially when you're producing these events?
It's definitely a love-hate relationship. I love my queer community. My whole career has been dedicated to empowering queer people, and I love being at a table of queer people. But girl, we are opinionated. Everyone has an opinion.
I've never heard of such a thing.
Everyone has a perspective. Everyone has a clarifying thought.
Yeah.
And so it can be challenging to be collaborative. But at the end of the day, if you are at the table from the mindset of bringing your best self and being open to learning, that's when the real magic starts happening. But if it just comes down to I'm right because this is my title, I'm right because I have the most experience, I'm right because I did it this way that one time and it yielded a result, then that's the like, y'all have fun.
Yeah.
Let me know. Tap me in when you're ready for my thing.
Much better to just leave your ego at the door when you walk into these spaces where we're all trying to, you know, make everyone feel seen, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. But that made me laugh so much. Everyone has an opinion.
So many opinions.
And I mean, you're the one who has to listen to everybody and give everyone their time. What do you do when someone's taking a little too much time? How do you handle that situation?
Well, first I want to say, where is my honorary degree as a therapist? Because I do have to listen to everyone and all their feelings about everything.
Yeah.
You know, it depends on my schedule, to be honest.
Sure.
I think sometimes I'll just let someone tire themselves out and talk, because it's a transfer of energy.
True.
So sometimes people just need to let it out. And I think I've reached a point where I can allow that to exist without consuming the energy.
Yeah.
Without it. I'm not always perfect at it. Sometimes it does influence me. In other times, I'm having a hard time in real time kind of coming up with my like conversation hacks, but thank God for TikTok, because I think it's helped me evolve my emotional IQ a little bit. So when people are spiraling, I'll give them a moment, and then I'll try to find my entry point and redirect with a question. Ask a clarifier, and try to get us back to the point we're trying to get to. But again, people are really so passionate, especially when it comes to community work.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to something that is so part of your identity. And in a capitalist structure, we're all conditioned to believe that our jobs are our identities. So it's hard to separate the two. But I'll say, one of the best tips I ever received in the corporate space was from the creative director at Habitat for Humanity, New York City. Wonderful, wonderful creative woman, Devin. And we were going through the editing process for the gala invitation. And there were so many people at the table for this editing process. The invitation became so ugly by the fourth round. And she just printed them out and kind of in timeline, laid them out. And she said, see, this is what happens when people project their personal opinions on the editing process instead of first asking themselves, does this get the job done?
Ooh. Oh, I like that.
And not, does it get the job done in the most bare minimum sense? But people really love to get in the weeds. And I think just, it comes back to being seen and being heard.
Yeah.
Having their stamp on something. But, if that's really just your only objective, is to have your stamp on it, it does jeopardize the quality of the work.
Absolutely. Yeah. The quality of the work and the quality of, let's say, the company, the quality of everyone else too, and, the space that you're in. Wow, that's a really good, what's her name? Devin?
Devin.
Yeah. That's great. I like them. Are you still friends with Devin? Connect every once in a while?
Yeah, we're still connected. She's out east. Last I heard, she was, she's like a rock climber.
Oh.
And she likes to do like camping and things. So,
okay. Okay.
Live and let live.
Are you a
Absolutely not. No.
My sister and my brother-in-law always invite me camping, and I'm like, you already know I'm gonna say no.
Yeah.
I'm not a no.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm busy.
I'm busy. I didn't even tell you what date it was. I'm busy.
Definitely. Yeah.
I'll do maybe a glamping.
Barely.
Barely. No. So just let's not invite Ricardo to anything. Oh my gosh. So what would be your goals for the rest of this year? I mean, we're still early in 2024. What would you say is one of your main goals for this year?
One of my main goals is my writing. I'm really proud of my creative expression as a writer, and I want to write more. So that's on a personal level, that is something that I've been really focused on. On the career side, we're getting ready to announce the lineup for OutLoud Music Festival. We're about to be in peak festival season.
Yeah.
So just staying the course with that.
Yeah.
I'm also working with Queerency and LGBTQ plus Business Week. We launched the inaugural virtual summit last year. So I'm expecting to renew and produce the second annual this year, towards the end of the year. And on the social justice side, I've been volunteering with the Lalo Vargas campaign for City Council District 14. And even, where we're at today at the Arte bookstore here in Boyle Heights. If I may go off on a bit of a tangent, this block is at risk of being gentrified by Tao Corporation. They wanna buy up the block and develop luxury housing with very little access to affordable units. And this bookstore is a Latina-owned, independently owned bookstore. The owner is doing really incredible work. Viva, she's doing incredible work in the community. She makes the space available for organizations, for people that are mobilizing and coming together as a community. She has a wonderful intern that she's supporting, a young Latina who's also learning about photography as a professional career through Los Fotos, which is a nonprofit across the street. So One of my biggest things is that if I'm going to stay in LA, I want to immerse myself in the neighborhoods that I'm frequenting and supporting. And I want to raise awareness about what's going on, because life gets so busy in the day to day. It's easy to be uninformed. It's easy to be unaware. It's easy to be just so completely exhausted that you don't have an ounce of effort to participate in making a difference. But we're at a very critical time in this reality. There are millions of people at risk of being displaced. There are millions of people at risk of losing their jobs. And we have to come together as a society to support. So I think of all the wonderful things that I am working on that I'm so grateful for, all of it is funneling to use my platform to empower people here and really anywhere that I go. So that's really one of my focuses.
Yeah. Wow. So, I mean, I've fallen into that too. Sometimes you do, that resonates a lot, where sometimes you do feel so exhausted and you don't take that time to really figure out what it is that's going on here. And then, yeah, we are in this bookstore and it's beautiful. And in the short time that I've been in here, I mean, you've already given me so much knowledge on what's going on in this neighborhood and what's going on here and what Viva's purpose is here for this bookstore. And I think it's so beautiful and amazing. And, you know, like I said, I'll say that it's taken me some time to get out of the whole, I'm too busy, I have this. That doesn't necessarily mean you don't have time to learn and to try to help in any way that you can.
Yeah. You know, the reality is we have to take care of ourselves first before we can take care of others. And oftentimes when we are going through our own struggles, we feel like I have nothing to offer. I'm barely taking care of myself.
Right.
But the simple act of showing up changes the course of life for yourself, for the people that you're showing up for. I'm exhausted. I worked 15 hours yesterday, and you know, we're getting ready for the primaries, which is going to be another pivotal moment. I would love to just maybe sleep in this weekend and take care of myself, but I feel like we're so close to the finish line. We have to keep pushing. Yeah. And no matter what is going on, there's definitely someone who's going through a more difficult instance. So even in the times that we feel we have nothing left to give, we can find a way to shed some light. And sometimes it's as easy as sharing information on social media. Yeah. It's as easy as having a conversation with a stranger. I went to a Black History Month event where I was learning about the history of Black communists in America, which totally blew my mind. I mean, totally not the person to reiterate that conversation. I'm not a professional, but it really was such an interesting experience. And I took an Uber home, and normally I'm very socially awkward. I don't really like talking to strangers, but this driver would not let up.
Oh, really?
They were really trying to have a conversation with me, and we had a 40-minute drive home. So I tapped in. And as it turns out, he lives in the same district that I live in, District 13, which includes downtown LA and Boyle Heights and El Sereno. And he was not planning to participate in the primaries because he's so fed up with politics. Yeah. And so I shared with him where I'm at in the political process and who I'm choosing to support. And I left information with him. And I don't know what he's going to do. But the point is that I, in that moment, felt like I had nothing to offer to a complete stranger. But we ended up having a really meaningful conversation. Yeah. And he learned something new and I learned something new in that dialogue.
Wow. That's so beautiful. I mean, I think that holds so much. I think it's been a while since maybe I've done something like that where I go and just try to talk to just a stranger or pick up a conversation because, you know, like it is easy to say that we've been on all day. And we just want to shut off at the end. But you're right. I think it's about keep pushing. Yes, take care of yourself. Yes. Take care of your body, right? But I think that's really beautiful. And so that's really what your intentions are. I mean, not just this year, that your intentions are really to just keep doing that for not just LA, obviously. Do you see yourself probably leaving LA at one point?
I don't know. I have that suitcase waiting at my door. I'm I'm in love with what my experience has been so far. I'm meeting a lot of people that are helping me evolve as a person. So I think I'm definitely ready to be in community. And moving around so much, it's hard. It's hard to keep up. It's hard to establish community. So I know that I'm here and I'm going to make the best of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if LA is my forever home. I have dreams of moving to Mexico.
Yeah.
My grandparents are so lucky. They still own the land that my father and my tias were born on. And it would be such a privilege to move back and to really just reconnect with my family out in Mexico, in Morelia. And maybe that's my final chapter.
You never know. Yeah.
In terms of like, I did all the career things.
Yeah.
I learned how to love myself. I learned how to love the people that are around me. And now I can maybe just go like farm some goats.
Yeah.
And live a quiet, soft life.
Well, please call me because our families are from the same city, which is
that's
so
right.
beautiful, Morelia,
Yeah.
Michoacan. So
Yeah.
that is amazing. And I don't ever really meet people who are from there. It's just not something that I run into day to day, you know? So I thought that was
Same.
really, really beautiful and just kind of interesting. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I don't really meet people from there.
Literally same, but since moving to LA, I've met a few people from Morelia, you being one of them.
Cool. Oh, well,
And
please introduce me.
yes.
All right. Well, man, I really could go on, but thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. And I mean, you can catch this episode on Lightbulbs, on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube. And Ricardo, thank you so much for being here. I do appreciate it. And I know this all happened through, just meeting at an event. And I'm so grateful that you came on here and
Thank
told
you
your
for
story.
having me.
Thank you so much.
And congratulations on your
you.
wonderful podcast.
Thank you so much. All right. Thank you so much.